Welcome to the Ronnie Resonance Podcast, a space for women in transition, becoming, and rebirth. I'm Ronnie, an intuitive guide, mentor, and multi-dimensional human learning right alongside you. Here we explore identity shifts, intuition, alignment, purpose, and the deeper truths you've been feeling but maybe haven't said out loud yet. This is where you return to yourself gently, honestly, and with resonance. Take a breath. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ronnie Resonance Podcast. If you're here watching live, I just want to say I'm really glad that you're here with me. And if you're watching this as a replay or just watching it back, I'm really glad that you found this conversation. But before we get started, I just want to give like a quick note on how this will flow. Everyone joining this live will be muted and cameras will be off just to keep the space focused and really easy to move through. You can absolutely use the chat throughout the conversation, and I'll be checking that as we go and just doing my best to respond in real time so that this can feel really interactive. So if something resonates with you, you can, just say you agree, throw a thumbs up. If you have questions, you can raise your hand, use the little like emojis, but you don't need to send multiple messages. Promise I am checking them and I will get to your questions when the time is right. So like I said, if you have a question, just drop it in the chat and I'll get to it as soon as I can while we're moving through this conversation. So let's go ahead and get into this. I think that there's a point where you just kind of start to realize in your life that it's not just that you might feel drained in your situation, depending on if that's work, personal life, relationships, whatever. It's not it's not that you're just drained, but it's not just that you have a hard time saying no either. And it's not just that people start acting different when you set boundaries with them. And I think that people, when they start to realize that, it's it's not that you don't fully trust what's actually right for you with these situations. I think that's where a lot of people like get hung up on this conversation. People will say things like, follow what feels aligned and trust yourself. But I think that what I'm trying to get better at doing is really explaining how to actually know what that is, because that's what I talk about a lot of the time. So when we don't really know what that is of what is being aligned and with the right people and all of that, you end up really second guessing a lot of things in your life. So, you don't know if what you're feeling is your intuition. You may not know if it's fear. It could be conditioning, or it could just simply be discomfort. And for me, that really showed up in my work. And I'm going to use this as an example because this just, oh my gosh, I resonated with this girl and I felt so incredibly bad that she felt this way. And I completely have been right in her shoes before. But I just remember the other day I was on Instagram and I remember seeing a video of a hairstylist, and she was in the back break room mixing up color and she was crying because she had been working literally all day. I think she started her day at 8 a.m. and it was 8 p.m. when she was making this video. And she thought she was going to be done by a certain time with her client. And she forgot that how long the client's hair was. So obviously it ended up taking a lot longer than she really, wanted that to be. And so she was kind of venting in the video of just like how upset she was. And so she really was just like breaking down in this video. And as I was watching this, I just remember thinking, wow, that used to be me. Like just really trying to make everything work, I think was like what I noticed with her was like really just trying to do it all and be everything and trying to fit everybody in. Like she had a stacked book and like I think I don't know. She would, I would assume with that situation, like she either was not given an opportunity to say no to taking clients if she works for somebody, or there's something within the way that she works that she had this crazy stacked day. And it's not that everybody can't do that, but I think that she's probably trying to be available all the time. And I think a lot of the time in the beauty industry, we're told that, like, if you're more available, you'll get more clients. If you say no to a client, you must not want it bad enough. When you're complaining that you don't have clients, like, oh, well, you complain all the time you don't have clients, and now you have one, and now you're going to complain. And, then there's like, if you're not fully booked, then you must be doing something wrong, is like the message that we are told. And so it's very confusing when you are like so exhausted and burned out, but you're trying to do everything the industry is telling you to do. And for a really long time, I believed that. I believed what the industry was telling me. And something I want to make very clear with all of that I had to realize is that alignment is not something you just find. You don't always just like stumble upon it. It is something that you have to recognize in your life. And a lot of people think that they are confused. They think that they are just simply disconnected from themselves, or that they have to learn to just like override these feelings. And I think for a really long time, I thought I was just confused. I really did. Like maybe I'm just overthinking my job. I'm just stressed out. I just need to take a break, and then I'll, take a break, go back to normal. But really looking back, I really wasn't confused at all. I always just knew something was off. And I've talked about this in other podcast episodes, but I just didn't understand what I was feeling yet in those moments. So you really can't set these clear boundaries in your situation. Like if you're so exhausted from your work, like it's really hard to set boundaries if you don't actually know what is aligned for you, because there are people out there, like my best friend who is a badass hairstylist who can go in early and go boom, 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 and be there till 8, 9 o'clock at night and see all these clients. There are people that have the energy and that is aligned for them. So I think that a lot of people think that they have a boundary problem. Like once they start to realize like, oh, I'm just not setting these boundaries for myself. But I think a lot of the time too, they're also having a clarity problem or this like self-trust, because your alignment is going to show up in these patterns in your life. So it might be like you're feeling drained around certain people, like your coworkers or your like friends, your friend group, or even your family. And you can really have a hard time saying no to people. And again, that is a pattern, not necessarily always about boundaries, but overthinking your decisions as well is something that if you're constantly overthinking, like, did I make the right decision? Did I do this? Did I do that? That's a pattern that you have to start realizing, that you keep asking yourself this, or you keep overthinking these decisions. And so that would make you feel like something is off, but you really can't explain why, because you're overthinking everything and you're like, something's off here, but you just don't know. And that's when the alignment conversation starts to come up and you start thinking like, well, something's off. I got to figure out what this is. But again, like you just can't explain it. So a lot of people try to fix these just individually instead of seeing them as like one core issue. These are all symptoms of the problem that is happening. And it's not just one thing. This is misalignment. It's not just about like, because what I said in the last podcast is like, if you set the boundary, I think this was in the extended episode, but if you set a boundary and you watch how people react and they react badly, you can see that that's a misalignment. So sometimes it's not just like the boundary, it's because you can set a boundary all you want, but it's how those people or places interpret that. So even recently I had this come up. So I'm actually in the process of changing my services, and I had a client ask me if I would keep doing lash extensions just for her,
because I only have like two lash extension clients and they're actually friends. So, I mean, I get why she asked that because for a second, I had to catch myself going back into these old patterns because, I was thinking, well, I still have lash supplies. I definitely could make this work still. But I had to stop and really ask myself, is this actually aligned with what I said that I want? And the answer was just straight up no. And not because the client was wrong or not because I just didn't care or didn't appreciate all of the support and time I've spent with this client over the last few years, but because I'm choosing to use my energy very differently now. And that's something that I've really had to learn about myself. And not everything that is uncomfortable is necessarily misaligned. And not everything aligned feels comfortable. So for me, misalignment really started to show up in my body. And it wasn't exactly logical. Like I'd be going to work and I'd be having anxiety, or I'd be dreading going to work, or I would just be feeling off before going into work. And I'd be trying to like ground myself and do all the things. And I've tried all the things. And it just felt like it didn't matter because week to week, I felt the exact same. And this went on for a really long time. But my mind would really try to like make sense of why I was thinking that it was these things or why I was feeling this way. And so I go into, my ADHD brain is like, well, am I just being lazy? Am I just scared of something within this job? Why can't I do what other people can do? Like my best friend who works these crazy hours. Like, why can't I be excited to do that? And I realized it wasn't any of that. It was really the way that I was working literally was not aligned for me anymore. So, like I said, alignment is not something that you just figure out one time. It's something that you have to learn to recognize over time through how you're reacting to things, how your energy is being used, and how you feel after being in that dynamic or that place, and through your relationships and, how you feel around certain people and in your interactions. And everything that you've been experiencing, it really connects, like how drained you feel, the struggle to say no, the way people respond when you change. It's all information that's trying to tell you like, hey, you need to start looking into this more and seeing like, okay, is this because what happened for me was really just like thinking that, oh, I needed to be done with aesthetics and I'm going to close my spa. But then it hit me one day thinking, oh no, I think I need to actually just change the way I do my services. And I thought I couldn't for a long time because my industry was making me feel like I couldn't. But the thing is that the way the industry operates, it's not aligned with me. And that's something that I had to start getting real of like, how can I continue to do what I love as an esthetician while also it being something that is more done in alignment in the way that my energy operates and how I work and what really feels fulfilling to me. So, this isn't just about boundaries. It's about learning how to recognize what's actually aligned for you in your life because a lot of the time, the issue isn't that you don't know what it is or what's going on. It's that you just don't trust what you're already feeling about the situation. Because again, like your logical mind is trying to, like, your body's telling you first, you're having this anxiety. And so your logical mind's trying to be like, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's, but if you really sat down and got quiet with yourself and really thought about what you loved and didn't like about your job and how things could change or whatever, then, you'd start to trust how you feel in that on this, internal level and start to align your life externally and seeing how these things start to fall into place, whether that be opportunities or, whatever. So, um, it's all about the self trust within yourself and honoring yourself, not abandoning yourself when like if you show up every week to something and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm dreading this." Like it's time to self reflect and figure out what is it that's going on. So the real question isn't just how do I know what is aligned? It's really about like, what do I do once I start to see that more clearly? And that's what we're going to be going deeper into now. So if you are a premium or VIP member inside the Becoming Sanctuary, you can head over to the extended podcast. The link is in the podcast classroom and you can join me there. In the extended, we're going to get into what this actually looks like in real time or real life and how to recognize alignment in your decisions, how to trust it, and how to stay grounded in it when things really feel unclear. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the extended version is inside the Becoming Sanctuary, which is just my private community. It's free to join, which I'm actually going to have linked in the description below if you want to join and go deeper into this work. I also put some other tools and things that go with each podcast to help you expand on what we talked about. And if you want to be part of these live conversations moving forward, the public portion happens live every single Tuesday, and you can join that by becoming a member inside the Becoming Sanctuary as well. But thank you guys so much for being here today, and I'll see you over in the extended episode.